Welcome to this Meetup Live event, the first one of the year. So excited to be joined by our special guest, Camille Virginia, author of The Offline Dating Method. Okay, so I said this before, I'll say it again. I am going to apologize in advance for my cough and for sounding all nasally. I'm a bit under the weather, but I'm in great spirits in case you can't tell. I'm like jumping off my seat. Camille is here to joining us today for this event. She's going to guide us through her proven three-step process to attract a great partner wherever you go. To understand and utilize the deep need for genuine in-person interactions to find your next date. I can't wait. I don't know if any of you participated in this past Sunday's, what is it called again, Camille?
Dating Sunday, the biggest day for
online dating. I did not, because I do not like online dating, so I'm ready for this. Let's take it offline. So before we get started, I'm going to go over a few guidelines and the agenda. So first of all, this event is going to be recorded. So if you have to leave early, do not worry. We will be sharing a recording later in the week and a recap on our blog, and you can access it at meetup.com/blog. Also, the only two people that you can see on here is Camille and myself. So do not worry, you will not appear on video. Everyone is muted, so your mute button is not broken. That is just a courtesy. We encourage you to please ask questions. There is a feature at the bottom of the screen for questions, so please submit your questions in that Q&A feature. Also, closed captioning is available. Thank you to Zoom for this great tool. You can turn it on by simply clicking on the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preference. So I shared with everyone what this event is about. I'm going to quickly introduce Camille, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started so that she can share all her great tidbits. And then I will be asking Camille some of the questions that y'all share with me. So again, I encourage you, if you have questions, to please share your questions in the Q&A feature, and hopefully I will get to them and Camille can answer them. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so Camille, thank you so much for being here. I've had the pleasure of speaking to you a couple times via Zoom, and every time, like, you share something better and better, and I'm like, this is just gonna be such a great event. I just can't wait for more. I hope that everyone has their notepad and pens ready to take notes. I do. So everyone, Camille Virginia is an award-winning writer, founder of Master Offline Dating, and author of the best-selling book, The Offline Dating Method. Her three-step process to help singles ditch the dating apps, pick me, and attract a great partner in the real world. After overcoming her own social anxiety, Camille mastered the art of meaningful in-person connections. She is now dedicated to sharing her authentic method and actionable tips to help people create a less lonely, more fulfilling life across every aspect, whether it's friendship, career, family, and romantic, of course. She has subscribers from over 120 different countries and has been featured in major media outlets, including The Atlantic, the BBC, and USA Today, to name a few. Camille, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Janine.
I know, it's so great to have you. I'm so excited that you're here, as I've mentioned already like 20 different times, but I really am. Okay, so first things first, like, you know, online dating has been going on for years now, not in my 20s, but you know, it started sometime after, like when I was in my 30s. I'm now in my 40s. Why did you become an offline dating coach specifically?
Well, I really stumbled into it. I grew up with social anxiety, and I honestly would look around at people in middle school and high school, kids my age, and I thought that everyone, you know, when you're a kid, you think that everyone is feeling the same things that you are and sees the world like you do. So I thought they just pushed through it. And I was like, well, I want to be comfortable talking to people. I just need to buck up and get over these fears that are debilitating. So I just went on this long journey of kind of going out of my comfort zone, going to a party by myself, talking to strangers, doing all these things that were absolutely terrifying. And I conquered those fears, and I actually fell in love with connecting with people in the process, because humans are social creatures and we're meant to connect with each other, in person especially. So fast forward to 2010, I moved to Chicago. I was dating someone and he broke up with me within 2 weeks of moving there. And I didn't have any friends. It was the middle of winter and I had to use my new skills to go out and make friends. Otherwise, I would have been just sitting at home in a freezing cold apartment by myself. And that really pushed me to go out and meet people. And I love connecting with people. And I started getting a lot of dates in the process just as a byproduct of loving talking to people.
I can't wait to hear more. So is this is this what then convinced you to write a book, or why did you decide to write your book?
So that was a long journey. That was, that was 2010 when I moved to Chicago. And I would just kind of go out and meet people and get these dates and come back and tell the stories to my friends. Oh, yeah, I went on a picnic and went to a picnic, group picnic, and met someone and I got a date this weekend. And my friends who are extroverts were like, how do you do that, Camille? I was like, how do I do what? And they're like, well, we can't meet guys. I said, you guys are more social than I am. You're extroverts. I'm an introvert. And so these were actually coworker friends, and I was in corporate consulting, and they were like, well, teach us. And when you want to learn something in corporate consulting, you make a PowerPoint. So for the first time ever, I actually had to think about what I was doing because it had become very natural for me. I just, when you love to do something, you don't really think about how you're doing it until someone asks you how you're doing it. And so long story short, I made this PowerPoint. It was like 10 slides. I presented it to them on how to talk to men. I think I call it how to let men pick you up. And it just grew from there, or very organically. And then I started teaching workshops. I came across a platform that would advertise your live workshops and take a cut of the revenue. So I taught over 100 live workshops in my apartment. It was wonderful market research. Again, I was just having fun on the side of my corporate job, teaching women how to date offline. But it was incredible and very valuable market feedback. I got instant feedback. I got questions. I could see patterns in what women were struggling with. And from there, I had so much content. I created an online course. And from there, a business and coaching. And then I ended up winning a book proposal contest and got a publishing contract and wrote 3 books. And I published 2 of them.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm so glad that you're sharing your knowledge on how to get dates. So fast forward to the past year and a half, right? Clearly the pandemic changed everything when it comes to dating. Can you talk a little bit about that? How has it changed the landscape?
Yeah, well, the pandemic really just exacerbated a trend that was already going on, which is people being on screens and losing their in-person social skills. And so whereas we were kind of in this gray area before where people would still go out to the grocery store and do in-person events pre-pandemic, when that was taken away and is still, of course, depending on where you are in the world, may still not be available right now, it just, we couldn't ignore it anymore. We couldn't ignore that, oh gosh, I don't know how to get a date without going online. I've been using dating apps as a crutch for a long time. And I get it, it's easy. You can get a date and connect with people and talk with people without even leaving your couch. But easy doesn't necessarily mean better. So people have just been burned out with online dating. The pendulum swung too far to the side of being reliant on the apps. Unfortunately, social skills are like muscles. If you don't use them, you lose them. And it doesn't mean you can't get them back. We all have natural social skills that are buried within us that we just have to unlock and practice a little bit. But it gets hard. And I can speak as someone with anxiety and who had social anxiety that the longer you go without talking to strangers or talking to someone that you feel an attraction to, the bigger the fear is going to grow until it's like, I don't even know where to begin anymore. So I wanted to help people who felt like I did when I was growing up, even before the pandemic hit, which, now I think we just need these skills even more.
You just said so much, and I have to say, I think that's why I stayed away from dating for the past year and a half, because I've never been an online dating person. I've always been an offline dating person. I just don't do it right. But I've always wanted to meet, the people offline. And so when online happened, I never I never really connected with, meeting someone or finding someone online. I've done it, but it hasn't worked for me. And I also don't enjoy the process. Like for me, it doesn't seem authentic and genuine, which is what I think happens when you do meet someone in person, just like you were saying. But something that's been interesting is like usually because I do like to go offline, when I do go somewhere and I'm looking to meet someone, if I sit at a bar somewhere, you would usually see the people on their phones, literally on their dating apps, swiping, so now like I want us to like bridge that gap, right? So now that we want to go offline and meet people offline, this is where you come in and you're going to help us. So what are the 3 steps to get a date offline, right? And also like, does it vary depending on your age range or if you're LGBTQ plus or your personality? Like you mentioned, you're an introvert, I'm an extrovert.
Great questions. So first and foremost, of course, everything I'm going to say is within the context of abiding by your local government regulations and social distancing and things like that, because we are in a pandemic. It will come in waves. It will pass. This is great. I love that everyone's focused on offline dating right now, even if they are in a part of the world where they can't go out the door and do it right now. So kudos to everyone watching this. But it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are, how you identify with your gender. We're all just human. What you say will depend on your personality and what's actually true for you. That's where it gets fun, because I love to give lots of different options to people, because what feels natural and comfortable for me may feel unnatural and forced for someone else. So I love to just get people thinking of, here's some ways that you could break the ice. Here are some approaches you can use. Here are 300 tips in my book. Choose one that fits what feels right for you, and then go forth and conquer. And so the 3-step process follows my book, The Offline Dating Method. But the first is magnetic approachability. I know that this is the one that you're most excited about, right, Janine?
Yeah, what gave it away? Besides me mentioning it like 3,000 times and highlighting it and putting it in bold.
Yes. Well, this is great because it's the whole first chapter of my 3-chapter book, and it doesn't involve talking. So it's just how to step outside the door and feel confident in yourself, in what you're wearing. It's being a little strategic and a little bit more intentional and purposeful than just, I'm going to get a date today. Yay. And then not really having a plan around that. So, something that I like to really help my clients with is dressing for confidence in a conversation. And this is it's putting a little bit more effort into your appearance. You don't have to wear something fancy to the grocery store, but I've seen it happen when the pandemic first hit and everyone was masked up. We weren't really sure what was going on. All restaurants were closed. All in-person events were canceled. I went to the grocery store. There was this woman in this super sexy, awesome dress, clearly not going anywhere because everything was closed except for the grocery stores, but she was just rocking it. And I was like, good for her. She wants to look good and maybe meet people, or maybe just feel good about herself and get a compliment. Who knows? But that's one example. Maybe it's for you, it's putting on eyeliner, or it's wearing your favorite cufflinks or something like that. Or just like a pattern that's a little bit different, or a bright color, something that exhibits your personality so that it stands out from the crowd. So it gives someone something to comment on and give you a compliment. Because when people want to say something to someone, clothes are a really safe way to do that. Plus, if you are showing off your personality with your clothes in some way, it could be a sports cap, a graphic tee, whatever it is, then that compliment that comes to you is going to feel really personal, and you're already starting that conversation off on a great foot.
Thank you. Okay, so excuse me, sorry. Okay, so is it more about not what you're putting on, but more about how it makes you feel, right? So you want to put something on that makes you feel comfortable, that shows your personality, that when you're wearing it, you feel really good and you're walking around with that confidence.
That's half of it. The other half is the conversation starter part. So that's where the uniqueness comes in. So absolutely wear something that makes you feel good, even if it is like a black jacket or something that isn't that unique, but then maybe pair it with something like um, a red pin or a cool hat, or a tote bag with your favorite charity on it or something
I
like
just
that.
want to make sure, Camille, that I don't have to break the bank and buying all these new outfits to wear to the grocery store.
No, absolutely not. This should work with your existing wardrobe because you bought clothes that you already like, right? So it's just, again, being a little strategic and like, what's like my piece of flair that I can wear today? Just choose one little thing. Could be a bright yellow nail polish or something like that. Something super cheap and easy.
Okay. So this outfit, right? You're going to have your magnetic approachability, this confidence that you're exuding in this outfit. Now let's talk about the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So that's step 2, effortless engagement. And so once you have magnetically attracted someone to you, then it's time to break the ice. And this is where I see a lot of people get stuck. Either they are kind of scared to break the ice, they don't know what to say, they've been told by, I don't know, culture, society, media, like choose a pre-planned pickup line and go say it to a whole bunch of people. Well, as an introvert who's very authentic, I don't want a pre-planned pickup line. I want something that feels natural in the moment. So the whole point of the icebreaker is just to break the ice. You're not going to stay on this topic forever, so don't overthink it and be like, I can't talk about the weather because I want to like stab myself in the eye when I talk about the weather, and no one's going to want to talk about the weather for forever. It's just to see if the other person wants to opt into the conversation. And again, with COVID, and masks and stuff, this is an extra layer of making sure that they're comfortable talking to strangers because maybe they're immunocompromised or they're just not, they live with a family member who is, or we don't know the reasons why someone doesn't want to talk to you. They're rarely personal. They don't even know you yet. So you can't take it personally if they opt out of the conversation. But it's just something simple like, I use the grocery store a lot because everyone goes to the grocery store. Maybe they're holding a box of granola and you're like, oh, this person looks really interesting. I want to talk to them. What can I ask about that box of granola? And then just within those parameters of what's happening right now in the moment, if you had to ask a question about that granola, what would it be? Like, oh, have you tried that brand? Is it any good? I'm actually looking for new granola bars. I'm kind of sick of the ones that I've been eating for 10 years. Or does it have macadamia nuts in it? Or something like that. And it just kind of kicks off the conversation and you can learn a lot about how someone responds. Maybe they answer your question and then walk away. Maybe they're like, yeah, oh my gosh, these are the best granola bars. I just became a vegan and blah, 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 blah. Now you're talking about, health and nutrition. And so it's just using what's around you, use what's casual and contextual to break the ice with someone. And I've got other ways, but I'll pause there, see if you have any comments or questions on that one.
So, okay. So I have 2 questions. So I can I guess finding the clothes that make you feel confident and that you feel really good about, I feel like that's a lot easier to do, but taking that initial first step and starting a conversation, especially if you have anxiety over meeting people, like, can you share some pointers that, can get you calm and ready so that you can ask the question very confidently, right? And not just like the wrong words come out. Like, I know when I get too excited, i.e. now, sometimes my words get like all mushed together and they make no sense, right? So it's like, blah, blah, blah. Like, so what can you do at the moment, to get yourself grounded and be able to like break the ice and have like a good, genuine conversation, I guess, or so it doesn't seem that you're overreaching, but that it is genuine and authentic.
Mm-hmm. I would say first, and I need to remind myself of this often, take a breath. Just, if you're feeling anxious, you're like, okay, today's a day. I'm going to talk to people. If you're all wound up and you're forcing yourself to do it, that's not a good energy. Kind of wait till you're feeling like a little bit more relaxed. Maybe take a walk around the grocery store. Just do a lap and just kind of survey the area. Make some notes of some interesting people maybe you can come back to, but just give yourself that break. And then if it's too much to ask a question and engage someone else, do what I call a compliment drive-by. And that's where you just You just pick someone and you're like, you know what? I like their scarf. I'm going to go tell them that. And then don't overthink it. Do what I call my mind to mouth move. Just go say it before you can overthink it. Because every second you hesitate, that fear is boom, 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 growing. So go give that compliment. Just drop it. I love your scarf. It's beautiful. And then walk away. Don't even put that pressure on yourself to wait for them to engage. They may not even know what just hit them. But I guarantee you are going to feel better giving someone a genuine compliment. It's got to be genuine. Than the person is receiving it. And there's no pressure to continue engaging in the conversation. So do that to 5 people in 15 minutes if you can, or 3 people in 10 minutes, whatever it is, set a small goal. Go do that, and that will start getting you over your fear of talking to people, because you're basically going around giving free compliments to people. I mean, no one is ever going to be upset with that.
I got to tell you, I will not do this at my neighborhood supermarket because I can just see myself just mumbling some words, running off of my shopping cart, and probably running into someone because I'm so nervous and I just got off. So that is really great advice, and I feel like that's also a really great way to just get comfortable with talking to people in general, right? Because like you said, it's all practice, and it's all muscle memory, right? So it's like making connections and talking to people is like building a muscle. So one of the other things that I thought was so interesting, how you were just saying that anyone can just ask anyone a question. I mean, I'm gonna go back to like my 20s, right? Like I said, like in my 20s, dating was different than it was in 30s and now in my 40s, right? I mean, everything's changing. And I know that you could not, just speak to a random man that you met at like the grocery store, for example, and ask him a question. So like, does it matter? Because I would, it was always like, well, if you approach them, like you should let them approach you. If you approach them first, then they know that you like them, and then you miss out on the chase or something like that. Does it matter, if you are the one to approach them first?
Not at all. No. Mm-mm. The other person may not see you. They may just be having a bad day and can't risk one more rejection, or you never know what's going on with someone. So the beauty about the process I just described in breaking the ice with everyone is that it applies to everyone. Don't just do it to people who you are attracted to. Start off with the gender you're not attracted to, or someone who is significantly older or younger than you, where it's not going to come across as you're hitting on them, and just start practicing that social muscle. We're social creatures. We need this connection. I mean, those little dopamine hits that you get by asking someone who you have no intention of going on a date with is going to start making you feel incredible. And it's something that I can't describe it unless you've actually done it. This is how I got addicted to connection. I joke that I'm addicted to connection. And I'll just, not all day, every day. I'm an introvert. I need my space. But when I am out and about, sometimes I just love to engage people, and it opens up your world, as opposed to you feeling like it's you and everyone else has their own life. They don't want to be bothered. You see that everyone else wants connection too. Everyone is starved for connection right now. They were before COVID, and now during COVID, they absolutely are. It's a gift to engage people. They may not know what to do with that gift. They may not be ready for that gift, so they may not be open to pursuing it. But when you start doing this on a regular basis, even if it's just a couple times a day when you go out, you're going to start noticing the patterns and how people respond. You're going to see their eyes light up. Your instincts are going to kick in, and your body's going to be like, more of that, more of that, more of that. And it's just, it becomes almost addicting in a wonderful way. Whether you make a new friend, get a date, or you just make someone smile, and that's the extent of your interaction with them. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so now here's where we're going to spend a little more time, because I feel like I have a lot more questions here. Mm-hmm. So the third part of your book was getting asked out organically. We all want that. Well, I'll speak for myself. I want that. So how do we get asked out organically? And then I'm going to ask you, like, in different scenarios, what do you do?
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, chapter 3 is actually half the book, and it's the secret to getting asked out is happens before the ask out even presents itself. It's when you create a meaningful connection with someone. Because again, we're so starved for connection. When you can, and whether you initiate or they initiate, doesn't matter. When you get to a level of interesting conversation, which can happen really quickly. We're not talking an hour conversation standing in the cereal aisle here. We're talking like maybe a few minutes, if that. They're going to want more of you. And it's a natural byproduct of that to want to get someone's number. Like, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation, which that can feel scary. So after you create the meaningful connection, which we can dive into details on how to do that later. I've got a 5-step process. The ask out should be the easy part. And the safest way to do this is to make it about an activity. So as you're connecting with this person in the cereal aisle at the grocery store, let's say, ask questions like, so what are you up to this weekend? Or what do you do for fun? Or I just moved here, what are some good local places to check out? Start gathering interest about them in a very natural way. I mean, what are you up to this weekend is a very casual conversation question. And then you can say, oh, well, I've never tried that. Or I do that too. I also play tennis, or I love sushi, or XYZ. And then you can say, well, I think I might go check that out. If you want to come with me, here's my number, or we should go do that together. Or I'd love to learn more about how to start a business. Would you be up for grabbing coffee sometime? So the ask out makes the get together about the event or the activity, as opposed to, can I take you out on a date? Or, can I get your number? Which is a very personal, big ask, So make it about an experience, activity, interest, event. And it's the perfect excuse to get together and explore that connection a little bit more. That's in a much safer way.
So you're asking someone out without asking them out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's one way. The other way is just to be like, hey, I'm really interested in you, and I'm attracted to you, and I would love to take you out on a date. I've also had that happen, so it's your comfort zone. I'm trying to think of what might be more comfortable for most people, but if you're feeling bold, absolutely go for the ask.
And we can do all this at the grocery aisle, the dairy section, or the granola bar.
Everywhere, Janine, everywhere.
Okay, so we talked about, feeling confident, magnetic approachability, effortless engagement. So what are some other tips that you can give? And like I said, I was going to have a lot of questions around this, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, one of my lights keeps on flickering. What are some other tips that you can give to go from, the conversation to the ask? Like, can you give us some examples? Mm-hmm. And we keep on talking about the grocery aisle, but like, what happens if you're like at the gym, or if you're, at a restaurant or at a bar? Like, how can you make it so that it does feel and seem organic, and you're not like me, who's like just mumbling some words and then running out with the grocery cart and running into someone
who then you start a conversation with them, and who knows where
that's a good idea. Okay, don't give me these ideas, Camille, because I will be that person that, then I'll just be running around the supermarket, crashing into everyone just to, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but can I get your number?
I would love to read a story about that, Janine. Please do that. Let's see. So your question was how to create the meaningful connection. Was that it?
Yeah. I want I want to know about, like, I know that we talked about the conversation, but I feel like there's still so much more. Like, that conversation can seem really, really hard, especially when you're like in the moment and it's like, what do I say next? What do I say next? Okay, well, what do I say? Or it's like pulling teeth because they're not saying anything, but you kind of like want to continue the conversation. Also, like, Camille, like at some point, like you say something, right? You kind of have like 2 words back and forth and then it's done. When do you walk away?
Mm-hmm. Well, conversations are the responsibility of both people, right? So if you are finding yourself leading the conversation, it's like pulling teeth, especially for me as an introvert, that's not someone that I'm going to enjoy hanging out with. God bless the introvert or the extrovert who wants to, that's the perfect pairing for them because the extrovert likes to talk. but that's just not me. So you're learning a lot about the person in that moment. And that's why I want you to talk to a lot of different people, is so that it's going to take some time to find the people who you gel with. You're not going to gel with everyone, and that's okay. That's perfect, actually, because you don't want to attract everyone into your life. You just want to attract the people who you feel a genuine connection with, or want to talk to more. And it feels, even if you're a little bit nervous, it feels fun to talk to them. So let's see. Back to what was your original question again?
Oh, the conversation, right?
The conversation. Okay.
So how do you have the conversation in different settings?
Got it. So after the icebreaker happens, whatever it is, whether it's the weather, the cereal, at the gym, how do you use this machine? I like your spandex, like whatever the icebreaker is. A great segue to get off the icebreaker is, how's your day going? Or what's the best part of your day so far? And this is just casual but personal enough, and it's open-ended that the icebreaker is going to be done. Thank goodness, because again, no one wants to talk about the weather forever. And you can see if the other person is just talking to you to be nice or answer your question about the granola. And they're like, oh, it's good. Have a good day. And they walk away. Or if they're like, yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation too. Here's how my day's going. By the way, how's your day going? And you're getting clues, and it's very natural. It's very casual. This happens really quickly. And you can make sure that you, again, have their consent to keep going with the conversation for whatever purpose. We don't know if it's romantic at this point. And it's very casual. They can answer with as much or as little conversation as they want to. And the more details you can provide in your answer, assuming they ask the question back to you, the more jumping off points you can get. Like, oh yeah, I just had this big meeting and it went really well, and I'm going to celebrate by treating myself to cooking lasagna tonight, or I don't know, whatever. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I love lasagna. Or, oh, I heard lasagna is really challenging to cook. Now you're talking about lasagna and cooking and things like that. So the more you can answer with authentically, the more jumping off points you have. And now the better the conversation and more natural it's going to be.
Thank you. Okay. I know I've been harping on this a lot, but I have a treat today because Camille, you told me that you love answering questions. So I'm just going to ask you 2 more questions, and then we're going to open it up early for the Q&A from the audience.
Great.
Okay, so now I want to hear about your 5-step process for connection.
All right, so that's the 5 elements of a meaningful conversation. And again, this is half the book, so I'm going to try to condense it really quickly. But the first is ask awesome questions. And I give tons of examples in my book of how to do this. And these are not intrusive. These are not tell me your deepest, darkest secret. They're not going to feel forced, but it's just interesting questions that are fun to answer, and that could be, again, what's the best part of your day? I guarantee the person that you ask that question has not been asked that question in years, if ever, and it's a fun question because you're like, what is the best part of my day? Well, I just had this thing happen and I didn't really think about that or celebrate that. But now that you mention it, that is pretty cool. And now you're sharing it with someone. So you put them in a good frame of mind. It could be, I recommend questions that are, again, open-ended, like why or how did that make you feel? Things like that, as opposed to what or where or who, which can be answered in like a sentence. And then the conversation can stop abruptly. You're like, I don't know where to go from here. So, you mentioned that you had this big meeting, like what industry are you in? Oh gosh, tell me more about that. And how did you get into that? What's your background? Blah, blah, blah. So wherever you're genuinely pulled, this may seem like a lot of information, and I know we've got limited time, so I'm kind of like a fire hose right now, just spouting off all these tips.
No, share.
Okay.
I guess if the audience is writing everything down. If not, like I said, don't worry. We will be sharing a recap and a recording of this event on our blog, which you'll be able to access in a couple of days. Carry on, Camille.
Okay. Well, and also it's like, my book is available on Amazon, and it's got all what I'm talking about times 100 in the book. So so ask awesome questions. Give space for silence. So don't immediately jump in after you ask a question. Let the person kind of collect themselves and take a breath, because I know sometimes when we get nervous, we want to fill that silence, and that will cut off any meaningful answer real quick. And I share how to get comfortable with the silence in my book. Um, Third step is to listen empathetically. And this is my favorite tip in the entire book. And it's on several pages, but it's basically empathetic listening. And it's essentially putting yourself in the position of the person who is talking to you and empathetically listening, like seeing what they're seeing, feeling what they're feeling. And again, it's a simple process. I naturally did it. I never knew that this was actually a thing. I've actually, people watching me are going to laugh right now. I have passed out because people have been too graphic about their medical details, like, oh, this heart issue, blah, blah, blah. And I would go into empathetic listening technique, and I didn't know that was a thing because I was 17. And I would be like, oh my God, my heart, I feel the valve. Oh my God. And I'd pass out. So this is something that I was doing naturally. It's teachable though. And when you can empathetically listen, conversations become story time. It's literally like you're engaging your senses. Like, it's going to feed your addiction to connection. So be very careful. And I say that, in the best way possible.
We don't want anyone passing out.
No, I've learned to stay away from medical things because I can't not empathetically listen at this point. And so it's like, I had to read ahead in Game of Thrones, so I knew who was going to die so that I wouldn't be upset. Anyway, so yeah, the next step is, to not interrupt, to basically let the person talk. And that can be done by acknowledging, like kind of moving your head when they're talking, saying, mm-hmm, not jumping in and cutting things off, not interrupting, basically, because that will cut a conversation short real quick. And interruption is usually a bad habit, that we can reprogram. But the last one is to share about yourself. And this is where introverts especially can get a little uncomfortable. Like, I'm comfortable asking questions, but I don't want to share about myself. Well, then that's an interview. That's not a conversation. So I gave a lot of easy ways to share about yourself. Have some stories on hand, or think of the best part of your day before you go out, so that when someone asks that question, you can share a little bit about your day and feel a little bit prepared for that question. I walk readers through how to do all those things. But in a nutshell, that's how to create a meaningful conversation.
Thank you. Oh, I think I said meaningful connection. You said meaningful conversation. Okay.
Same thing.
Thank you. Thank you for those, the 5 steps. So, so now that this is my last question, because we're going to jump into the Q&A with the audience. So now that you've put our anxiety at bay, you taught us how to be magnetic, how to be effortlessly engaging with great conversation and get us out organically. Now you have to tell us, how do we put this to use and score a date in the near future?
Well, depending on where you are, it may take a little longer than not, but choose just one tip that we've covered today. Just one that was like, ooh, that's a little scary, but also sounds a little bit exciting. And make it your own. It doesn't have to be the same icebreaker I said, or in the grocery store or whatever. Think outside the box. I say examples to get people thinking about how they can use the tips in their own life to fit their personality, to fit their lifestyle location. So just choose one tip to try the next time you go out. Try it on a couple different people. Don't try it on one person and then give that person all the power to determine whether you're gonna, this works or it doesn't based on how this one person reacted to me. Don't put all that pressure on one person. Try it on different people, and you can tap into what I call the vacation effect, which is going to a different grocery store, a different coffee shop, taking a different bus home, so that if you completely embarrass yourself, like your fear, Janine, of running your shopping cart into a whole bunch of different people, which I'm like, it sounds like a rom-com or something, which, those always tend to work out well. But anyway, go to a different place and try these tips so that if you do embarrass yourself, which you will not, I guarantee, after having done this thousands of times myself, you never have to go back there again. So you're not going to, like you said, embarrass yourself in front of the grocery store clerk who knows your name, or your favorite barista, but you can work up to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, also, sorry. And I've also got a free dating challenge, the offline dating challenge. So if you go to offlinedatingchallenge.com, that is, you can have the option to whether you want to attract a man, a woman, or just a non-gender human. So also do that.
We shared the link in the chat. So if you're interested in that challenge, click on the link that we shared in the chat. Okay. Thank you so much, Camille. Thank you for everything that you just shared. Like, I cannot wait to watch this again and read your book. Thank you for the book. And take notes and write everything down and put it into practice, and then obviously get back to you and ask you more questions.
Love it.
All right, so we have a ton of questions. Okay, so we have a question from Daniel. How do we men get women to ask us out too, where we can be honest, not play a game, and say what boundaries are like adults? I think that's such an important question because, well, go ahead, you answer the question.
So I would say I would give the same advice to a man who wants to be asked out by a woman as a woman who wants to be asked out by another woman, by a man, it's really just using what's in the moment, what comes up in conversation, and not putting so much pressure on the other person. If you're waiting for someone to ask you out and you're really hoping that they are, they may be too shy to do that. So, find that moment of bravery and just say, hey, I'm really enjoying talking to you. Would you like to grab a cup of coffee? Another kind of middle ground way that you can exchange information is giving someone your business card, but handwriting your personal phone number on there. And I know some people are against that. They give social media handles. Okay, if you want someone to learn about you more on social media, then do that. I don't highly recommend that. But there's different ways. So you can put the ball in their court and then just walk away. Like, I really enjoyed talking with you. If you want to continue the conversation, here's my number. If not, that's okay. And there's no pressure. You can give them the chance to opt in. You don't have to stand there waiting for them to answer you. And you're just kind of owning that moment. So that would be what I recommend. I hope that answers the question.
Speaking of owning the moment, I think this is a great follow-up question. Someone anonymous asked how to handle the rejection that comes when you put yourself out there. That's another thing, like, how can you feel your rejection, but not let the rejection own you?
Mm-hmm. I like that phrasing. Well, don't stop at the rejection. That's one thing that just came to mind. Like, if you talk to someone, you're having a good conversation, you ask to exchange numbers or whatever happens, and it doesn't go the way that you want it to, or they decline or whatever, don't stop your interaction on that. Go immediately give someone a compliment or something to end your day or that moment or your time in that space on a positive note, so that that's not the last thing you're thinking about is the rejection, which I hate the word rejection. People just have so many reasons for why they do the things that they do. And who knows, maybe that person who rejected you is kicking themselves later, like, oh, why did I do that? I talk to women all the time who I work with who are like, oh, I handled that so badly. I wanted him to ask me out and he did, and I froze. I didn't know what to say. So yeah. Also, another tip is to just keep these interactions very, very small. When you're asking someone about the granola bar that they're holding, that is so minute that if the person's like, even on the rude end of the scale, like, don't talk to me, you'd be like, okay, that's fine. That's not going to ruin your day. That's going to probably be like, oh, that was weird. That person's clearly having a bad day. Anyway, ma'am, I love your shoes. Those are gorgeous. Boom. So go just redirect that energy to something more positive and don't take it personally. That's why I recommend the baby steps and letting the other person opt into the conversation along the way. So you're not going from 0 to 60 of like, hey, tell me about those granola bars. Can I take you out to a hot date tonight? That's going to terrify anyone.
I love that, because we have a lot of questions about how do you ask them how do you know if they're married, if they're single, how do you ask them? So you're just making conversation without feeling that anxiety about having to ask them about their status.
Exactly. And at some point, they will have to let you know. But when you look at someone, unless they're wearing a wedding ring or they have a significant other on their arm, you don't know if they're single. So That does that mean that you should never talk to anyone because you don't have a guarantee that they're single? Even if they're single, they may not want to talk to you. Even if they're single, they may not be attracted to your gender. Like the only way that you're going to find out if someone is available and open to engaging is to talk to them. It's the only way. And that's why I say talk to everyone. Don't just save this for people who you are attracted to, especially if you're just getting back into the offline dating game. Make it a habit to talk to everybody so that you are just the person who can talk to anybody. Doesn't mean you have to talk to people all the time, but it will feel so much more natural when you're faced with someone who you're attracted to. You're all warmed up on people who you weren't putting that pressure on yourself to try to get a date with for the hour before that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we have a question. Alex asked, in the case of a homosexual, LGBTQ plus person having a conversation with another person they would like to invite to a date, how to let that person know they are potentially interested in more than a friendship?
In the second edition of my book, I updated it to be all inclusive for all genders and all sexual orientations. And because I can't speak directly to a lot of those experiences myself, I included advice from people from the LGBTQ plus community. And so one of the safer ways that another expert that I included in my book shared in that situation, if you're not sure if the other person is attracted to your gender or the same orientation as you, is to, again, just focus on the conversation. Hey, I like ceviche too. I'd love to grab it with you sometime. Don't make it about a date or not. And then later, if they opt into that and you exchange contact information, then you can safely share, by the way, I wanted to be upfront that I am attracted to you. And if you're not open to that, then that's okay. But I wanted to let you know. That's also a safer way so that, I mean, you're not revealing your orientation to someone you just met, which I can imagine can be very terrifying for a lot of members of that community. So it keeps you safe too.
So we've talked a lot about meeting people in the grocery store. What about in the workplace? Like, how do you navigate this in the workplace? Like, how do you do it in a safe way so that you don't get called into HR?
Yeah, I was gonna say you do it in a safe way. You do it very slowly. Definitely, the minute that things kind of start heating up for more than a friendship, I would report it to HR, cover all your bases. We've all seen and heard stories where this can go really badly. Unfortunately, the office, before online dating came around, the office was like one of the top 3 places to meet your spouse. And there's, of course, pluses and minuses about that. And some people have unfortunately abused situations in the workplace, sexual harassment and stuff. But not everyone is going to do that. If there's good people that you work with and they're similar education level, lifestyle as you, I mean, it's a great pool of people to date. Be very transparent about it and take it very, very, very slow, because I will tell you, having been there myself, if it ends badly, it can be hard on many, many levels, not least of which your career, So it didn't end badly for me. I shouldn't say that, but I did have to see him a lot. So know that risk when you are dating in the workplace. And a lot of times it's going to be worth taking. Sometimes it won't be. So you got to feel into that yourself and then do everything by the book in terms of HR and following the rules.
Thank you. So we have a question about social anxiety. Sherry asked, would you be able to share some of the strategies to overcome social anxiety?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I didn't know what social anxiety was growing up. So I didn't know that all these fears that I had of even just chatting with the checkout clerk were not what everyone else was feeling for the most part. So I thought everyone just did a better job of, buck up and talk to people. And this was my problem. I just needed to overcome it. So I forced myself to do a lot of things that really scared me. And I probably have some traumas around still, but they pushed me in the direction of, okay, I can do this thing that scares me socially. I don't want to do that ever again. Glad I did it. I don't want to do that again. Dial it back a little bit. Find what works for you, just something small. And Sherry, was that the name of the woman who asked? So Sherry, if if there's something that's just like a little outside your comfort zone, even if it seems ridiculously small, like saying hi to your neighbor who moved in 3 months ago, and you're like, I should bring food over, I should say hi. Well, it's too late now. It's been 3 months. I don't know how to start the conversation. Go say hi to your neighbor. Just say hi. Just one little thing that scares you a little bit. Overcome that fear. Show it doesn't have the power over you, and that actually, once you pull the blanket off and look it in the eye, you're like, what? Yeah, I'm not afraid of you. Like, you're actually not that scary. And I actually kind of enjoyed saying hi to my neighbor, and now we're having coffee. So start very, very small and be gentle with yourself, and then just keep going. Try to set a goal once a week to just keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone gradually, but not enough that scares you.
Thank you. So we have another question. Zach wants to know, do you ever feel initiation exhaustion? Tired from always being the first one to engage? So I guess like that's a good one, right? Like we're talking about being the first ones to engage. Is there a way to get it to be the other way around? Like, can we make eyes with someone and get them to engage with us?
Yep,
like so I tried to make eyes with you, but not very good at it?
Yes, Janine. I felt that. Although I'm looking at the camera and not you, because I'm just so, oh, Zoom. Yes. So what was I going to say to that? Oh yeah. Magnetic approachability, chapter 1 is all about how to pull someone to you. So I know we just covered a few ways, but I talk about smiling. I talk about eye contact, 6 ways to get comfortable with eye contact if that feels terrifying for you. And then also, if someone breaks the ice with you, that's in chapter 2 as well. I just gave examples of how to do it yourself, but how to respond to someone when they break the ice with you, because they're doing the same thing. If they spot you, they want to talk to you, it's going to be about something random. I remember I was teaching a workshop, and this woman said, well, when guys approach me, they just say, weird things, and I'm not into that. I was like, well, what do they say? Well, they comment on my clothes. Well, what would you like them to say to start the conversation? Oh, I don't know. I mean, if you don't know what you want someone to say to start the conversation, how are they supposed to know? So just go with it. It's not about the shoes. It's not about the weather. It's just about the connection, and just go with the flow. Keep it short, simple.
You're both smiling at each other, making eyes at each other, and neither one of you is like, breaking the ice. What do? Just let it go?
No, you try a hi. That's icebreaker number 8 in the book, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so I say, break the sound barrier. Like, you're making eyes, just hi. And then just kind of half turn away, go on about your business. In one word, you have acknowledged the eye contact. You have shown that you are open to engaging and that you're a friendly person, in one word. And you've made it that much easier for them to come up to you.
Got it. Okay. I love that. All right. So we have more questions. I love this. I actually have time for like 2 more questions. Wait, I just had it here. Now I just lost it. Sorry.
That's okay. I could do this all day.
Oh, okay. So wait, so we just talked about making eyes and saying hi and all that stuff, right? I think like this might be a little bit along those lines. So Anonymous said, sometimes I see girls looking at me or smiling at me in a crowded place like the metro. So I'm assuming if it's the metro, are they in London? No, right?
That's
British. Okay. There you don't have too much time to talk in a place like that. It's really hard. Do you have any suggestions? Because it happens a lot and they do nothing.
Yes. I would say do whatever you need to do in that moment so that you don't walk away with regret. So maybe, like, my friend Ashley has these little half business cards, and I have a picture of them in my book to show an example. They're just half a business card. She loves to do like graphic design, t-shirt imprinting. It's got her phone number and her name on it. So it's not the businessy feel, but it has her contact information on it. So if this is happening to you a lot, Anonymous, get these
right,
cards.
Go Anonymous.
Yes, get these cards printed with your contact information, however you want them to be able to follow up. And then just start handing them out. Just see what happens. Like, hey, you've got a beautiful smile. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee sometime. Or you look really nice today. Or just a genuine compliment. Give them your contact information. Maybe 3 out of 5 don't contact you, but if 2 out of 5 do, and you're doing this every day, you're going to have more dates than you know what to do with.
I love that. I feel like Anonymous is wearing their Sunday best every day. We need to do what Anonymous is doing, or I need to do what Anonymous is doing. So we also have more questions about people asking other places where they can meet someone. I know that we talked a lot about the grocery store, and I mentioned the gym, and we talked about work, and we talked about a bar. Any other places that you recommend? I mean, I'm known for meeting people at the park.
I love that. I'm like flipping through my book to see if I can just find the list. I mean, literally anywhere you name a place, I have probably met someone there. And oh yeah, okay. Screenshot.
Gross animal shelter. Oh, I love that. Well, except you keep the pet if you adopt the pet.
Well, I was volunteering to socialize cats, and I met a guy there who tried to, I've learned later, like tried to sign up with my shifts, and I kept canceling. I had a big work project. And so he finally hunted me down on Facebook. He's like, I've been trying to like have another shift with you to ask you out. And anyway, so, I mean, the airport, I met my first boyfriend on a Southwest Airlines flight. You never know. Anywhere, a child's first birthday party, picnics, weddings, walking down the street. I was on a conference call walking down the street, and this guy approached me and started talking to me. He thought I was listening to music. I was live on a conference call. You never know. So if you have the open mind that you can meet someone anywhere, then you can meet someone anywhere. It's like the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yes, I agree with that. You can meet someone anywhere. And with that, I'm just going to do like a shameless plug, a meetup event. I mean, I think like that's a great place to meet someone, someone who shares same interest or passion as you. So perhaps you might want to take some of these tips.
Can I share that how we met story real fast, Janine, how you and I met?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I was in an article in Bustle, how to meet someone IRL, from the woman who wrote the book on it. I mentioned Meetup in there. I mentioned Meetup in my book because I love Meetup. And you or someone on your team picked it up that I mentioned Meetup. You retweeted it, tagged me. I saw it. And then I reached out to you about, the podcast. How can I support Meetup? I love Meetup. You asked me to do this. So that's the power of serendipity, putting yourself out there and then following up. You have to take a little action. I could have just left it like, oh, Meetup retweeted me. Awesome. No. Take the next step, follow up, and look, here we are right now. So that's how Janine and I met.
Poor you. You have no idea what you've just done to yourself because Janine's not leaving you alone.
I love it.
So we're at time. Thank you so much, Camille, for everything that you just shared today. Thank you for joining us for this great hour, and thank you to our audience who joined us today. I'm going to share a couple more slides before we go. Remember, if you joined late, you can catch a recap and a recording of this event on our blog at meetup.com/blog. And here we have Michelle. God, why do I keep on trying to call you Michelle? Camille's book, The Offline Dating Method. So if you want to learn more about what Camille has to say about dating offline, feel free to purchase her book. There's a link on the chat for you to do so. Also, next slide, please. So if you want to become an organizer, not join a group to meet your next date, but if you want to become an organizer and find others who share your interests, we have a promotion going where you can start a group and save 30% on your first subscription. Just go to meetupsavings.com. And last but not least, as Camille mentioned, she reached out to possibly participate on our podcast, but I thought she'd be much better for me to flag. Thank you for agreeing with me. We have a podcast with our CEO that we launched 1 year ago. If you'd like to take a listen, which we hope you do, you can scan the QR code here, or you can simply just go to meetuppodcast.com. Thank you again for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.